Today's video will be on finding an angle using trigonometry. So our learning goal for today, by the end of the lesson you'll be able to use inverse trigonometric ratios to calculate angles. Okay, so the inverse of sine, which is sine to the -1, the inverse of cosine, which is cos to the -1, and the inverse of tangent, which is tan to the -1, can be used to find angles in right-angled triangles. So if we have the side lengths and we want to find an unknown angle, we can use the inverse to find that unknown angle. So we know that sine is A over C. So in this case, looking at our triangle to the right here, we've got our hypotenuse, we've got our opposite, and we've got our adjacent side. So we know, according to SOHCAHTOA, that sine is the opposite over our hypotenuse, which in this case would be A over C. So sine of this angle would be A over C, which is our opposite over our hypotenuse. We can actually rearrange that so that we can find the value of this angle. So if we were to rearrange that original equation, we could rearrange it to this. So the angle equals the inverse of sine, so sine to the -1, in brackets A over C, our opposite over our hypotenuse. It's the same for the rest of ours. So our cosine or cos is B over C, which we know is our adjacent over our hypotenuse. Again, we can rearrange that formula to find the angle. So that means the angle will equal the inverse of cos times B over C. The last is tan, which is A over B, which we know is our opposite over our adjacent. And again, we can rearrange that formula to find out what the angle would be, and that is the angle would equal tan the inverse of tan times A over B, so the opposite over the adjacent side there. So just a note, because we have done negative indices before, that sine to the -1x does not mean 1 over sine x, so it's not quite the same there. Okay, so worked examples here using our inverse operations there. So we have to find the degree. We have to find the value of the degree rounded to the nearest degree indicated. Okay, so if we are using our calculators, I'll show you how to get the inverse of each of these operations. So we're going to rearrange for A to work out the degree. So as we know, the degree will equal the inverse. So on your calculator, if you want to do the inverse operation of sine, you actually have to use your second function. So that's the grey button there, so it's the second function. And then if you press sine there or sin, you'll be able to get the inverse there. And then you can type in your decimal 0.3907, close brackets there, and it's to the nearest degree. So our answer is 22.998, etc., etc. It wants it rounded to the nearest degree, so that would round up to 23 degrees would be our answer there. For B, it's the same thing. We're going to rearrange, so our degree will equal the inverse of tan, 1/2, and it's the same thing. When you're using your calculator, second function again, just pressing tan, which is the next division sign, and you get the inverse of tan. And you can type in it as a fraction, 1/2, or you can type it in as a decimal and you'll still get the same answer. It wants us to round to 1 decimal place, so our answer is 26.565, so that will round to 26.6. Okay. For C, we have to find the value of the unknown angle to the nearest degree. So remember, SOHCAHTOA. So label your sides if you still need to do that. Hypotenuse, adjacent, opposite. So we're given values for the opposite and the hypotenuse. So obviously we're using sine. So to work out the degree, we have to do the degree equals sine -1, our opposite side over our adjacent side. So we can fill that in. Sine to -1 is 6 over 10. You can type that into your calculators there. So second function again, sine. Again, you can use the fraction button here, which is this one here, which shows an n over d, so numerator over denominator. You can press that button there and you can enter in the fraction that it wants, just using these arrow keys here to shift around for the numerator and the denominator, and you'll get an answer of 36.8698, but it wants it to the nearest degree, so that will round up to 37 degrees for that one there. It's as simple as that. Just make sure you're aware second function and then each of the buttons, sine, cos or tan, to do the inverse operation there. And from there you'll be able to calculate unknown angles. And that's all we've got for today's video.